Hi, my name is Kyla. I am the owner and creator behind Suzie Lynn Sews, and I am sewing my own wedding dress. Kyla, you may ask, I didn't know you were engaged. I'm not, but I've been with my partner for 5.5 years now. Since we started dating, I've been dreaming about our wedding and stuff. I first had the idea of creating my own wedding dress in spring of 2022. I got my first sewing machine and kind of really fell in love with sewing in February of 2022. And then that spring, I was getting into sewing YouTube and watching a lot of sewing YouTubers. And I saw a video of Jenna Phipps sewing her own wedding dress. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make my own wedding dress. But I've always been just had a very grand vision for my wedding dress. And so I'm like, it's perfect. I need to learn to sew to the extent that I can sew my own wedding dress one day. And the thing I've loved most about sewing ever since I started is making pretty things, specifically dresses. I love sewing dresses. Right now, I'm kind of on hiatus from a couple projects of sewing some Taylor Swift inspired dresses for some clients. And I just love sewing pretty dresses. I love making pretty dresses. After I first had the idea of making my wedding dress, I'm like, okay, I'm clearly nowhere near the skill level of ready to make that yet, but one day I will make that. I knew that Zach and I, my boyfriend and I, weren't going to get married for a while. And two, I knew that I would be sewing for the rest of my life. And so I had plenty of time to build up the skill level to make a wedding dress by the time we would get engaged and married. So engagement time is nigh in Zach and I's relationship. Zach wants it to be a surprise. He wants to surprise me with our engagement, and he wants me to be completely shocked. And so I think he's downplaying how soon he's planning on proposing, but I have a suspicion it's sooner than I think. A few nights ago, last week, Zach, I don't remember how it got brought up, but Zach and I started talking about wedding planning because some of his coworkers were talking about during lunch break. They were talking about their weddings and what they'd done for their weddings, and one of his coworkers eloped back in the day and was like, elopement is the best. And I had the idea for elopement. I don't even know when I would have had the idea to elope. Before, probably at least 2 years ago. Probably about 2 years ago, I had the idea wait, would I like to elope? And eloping is just a lot more in style with Zach and I's taste. We're very sensitive people, and that's the thing, empathetic. We're sensitive and empathetic. And so to have a room full of a million people expecting things from us on our wedding day, I think would be overwhelming to an extent. I think we could handle it maybe, but I think it would be overwhelming. Last week he was like, maybe I do want to elope. And I'm like, yeah? He's like, yeah. So then I was like, so then I started getting all excited, because the thing about me is I get very excited about things, and I get very hyperfixated on things. And so hyperfixation was reborn. I was like, Zach, do you support me doing some wedding research right now? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And so I'm thinking about elopement and stuff and things like that. As I first thought of elopement, I imagined us eloping in the Pacific Northwest. But then as I'm doing all this research, I have the idea, I'm like, Zach, do we want to elope internationally, somewhere outside of the country? Because we both studied abroad in the UK, and so I'm like, do we want to return to Europe? Because we loved Europe, and we loved the brief time we spent there that was cut short because of COVID. And he's like, that might be amazing if we could elope, a destination elopement type thing. So then we talk some more about it, and then we decide Northern Italy is the move. And so I do some more research. I find an amazing Italian elopement photographer that I would love to have shoot our elopement. And then we go to bed, and then that's that night. And so then I wake up the next morning, and I do some more research, and I'm kind of researching all sorts of random little things of wedding life. And the thing about the dress is that I was kind of stumped on it. I was like, I know I want to make this dress. I know I want to make it gorgeous and beautiful and fairy-like and princessy and romantic and extravagant, but I don't have a clear vision beyond that. I have really grand hopes for the dress, but I don't actually know what it will look like to fulfill those hopes. And so I start dreaming about trying on wedding dresses, and I start dreaming about how I really just want to go to a bridal store and try on some wedding dresses, see what I like, on my own body with my own tone, skin color, hair color, all that. And I'm like, man, like, I really want to do this, but like, we're not engaged yet. Like, I can't just go try on wedding dresses before we're engaged. And then I'm like, why not? Why can't I? Might as well. Who needs to wait? I'm so excited about this. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I can go. I'm going back home to my family with my mom when I'm visiting. And we could just go to like David's Bridal, something a little more low key. But then I'm like, I don't want to wait till Christmas. I am hyperfixated and excited and, very into this right now. I want to do this right now. And so I'm like, oh, having a haunt over it. And then I'm like, hey, Zach, would you want to go wedding dress shopping with me? Because early on in our wedding, in this whole past couple days, I asked him, I said, how much do you care about the tradition that the groom can't see the bride's dress before the wedding day? And he's like, I don't care about that. I want to see your dress. Like, I don't know how you're going to make it without me seeing it. And I'm like, yeah, like, I agree. Because the thing about me is I thrive off of feedback and like bouncing ideas off people and like talking out loud. I think out loud very much. And so I thrive off of thinking out loud. And so I was like, I really want, like, I can't make this wedding dress without being able to think out loud to you about the process, because he's my best friend. He's who I tell everything to. Like, if I couldn't talk to him about it, I would be so sad. And so I'm like, I need to talk to you about it. And he's like, yeah, I want to hear about it. Like, so I asked him, I'm like, would you want to go bridal dress shopping with me? And he's like, yeah, I'd be down. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, why not? I was so excited. So I booked us a David's Bridal appointment. I booked me a David's Bridal appointment. And we went on Sunday. And it was so much fun. And so I tried on 7 dresses at David's Bridal, left with a much clearer vision of what I wanted. Okay, so prior to going into David's Bridal, I had pins on a whole bunch of different dresses. I've been pinning dresses, for like 5 years at this point. And none of them were all perfect. Like, they all had elements I loved. And I was like, there's something missing from all these pins. I was like, all of these dresses have elements I love, but there's an element I'm missing. And then before I went in, like the day before, I was scrolling Pinterest, looking at more dresses, and I saw this dress. I'll show you here. I saw this dress and I was like, aha, this is the element that was missing, this element of the dress. And so this dress, the layers of the skirt, but I was like, this is what I'm missing. This is the skirt. I need to combine the skirt with all the other ideas I have to make the dress. That's the idea. But again, I wasn't 100% sure about that. I was like, I really like that, but we'll see. And then I went into David's Bridal and I found a dress that had those layered organza layers. And I was like, yep. It was the 4th dress I tried on, and as soon as I walked out of the dressing room, I was like, this is what I've been missing in all the other dresses. Because the first few dresses I had on had the beautiful appliques I want, and like embroidered floral elements, embellishments. But there was still something missing. I was like, this still isn't quite right. And then I walk out with the dress with the layered skirt, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I was missing. The top is completely wrong. That is not how I want the top. What I thought, I walked in thinking I was going to really like strapless, because I like how it looks as a dress, like a strapless dress. I just really like how that looks. But I didn't like it on me because it felt so empty up here. I was like there's a picture here I'll show you of me talking to the stylist and my boyfriend and being like, up here it's empty. I need, like, there's so much potential up here for more glitter and sparkle and fanciness and beauty, and it's just plain skin. That's boring. Like, I don't want, like, yes, I want my skin showing, but I don't want it to just be like boring skin. Like, I want more. And so I didn't want it completely covered, though, because I love my tattoos. I have my tattoos, and I want to get more tattoos before the wedding. So I'm like, I want to show off all these tattoos, but I also want some more that ties the dress in with the rest of it. So I'm like, what I want is an illusion neckline with kind of, illusion sleeves, illusion type thing. So then my stylist brings the final dress out, the 7th dress I tried on. She brings out the 7th dress, and I tried it on, and I was like, yes, this is what I've been talking about with the neckline. This dress is beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. But it's not 100% what I want, mainly because the skirt doesn't have layers. This dress felt too heavy. It felt too heavy for me, and it felt very like regal and stately rather than flowy and like fairy, which is what I want. And so I kind of want, I think a big element of that was the way the appliques were and the color. You can't tell very well in these pictures, but there was like a silver metallic brocade under the, not brocade, like a silver mesh under the skirt. So everything was like silver tone, and it was just too much. It was too much going on. It was too much silver, way too heavy for my taste. But the neckline was chef's kiss. So basically, I came back we left that appointment, and I was like, yep, I know what the dress is gonna look like. I almost knew the dress was gonna look like. I came back and I did some more research, and then I knew what the dress was gonna look like. So the thing is, I love tulle. Tulle is my favorite. It's my bread and butter. It's the dress that brought me, this tulle dress I made for Ali Sheehan is what brought me my first my first influx of customers. But beyond that, I just love it. I just love tulle. I think it's like such a fun material and such a fun fabric. And so I love the floatiness of it. Like it's so airy. And organza can be very airy too, but it's a different kind of airy in my opinion. I don't know what it is about organza, but organza and I just don't have a strong relationship. I just don't love organza. Like, it's too stiff for me, which tulle can be stiff too, but in a different way. And yeah, organza is just too stiff for me. It's too slippery and stiff, and it's just not my love. It's not my first love. My first love is tulle. And so I'm like, I want tulle. But that layer dress I tried on was organza. So I'm like, okay, can I do tulle with the layers? How will that look? And then I Google tulle fairy dress, and images pop up of basically what I was thinking. These were the images that popped up, and they're not the same. Like, that first image I pinned that I told you about, this one, is the real dream, but these other images kind of showed me what was possible with tulle and layering with tulle. So I still have a lot to figure out about the skirt. I know it's going to be really hard to construct and figure out construction for. It's not going to be hard to construct. It's going to be hard to design. Pattern. That's what's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to pattern. I think it's going to take some trial and error, but the good thing is tulle's cheap, so I can take that to trial and error with tulle. I talked with Zach. I was like, so what's my budget for the dress? Like, what do you think a reasonable budget is? Like, I think it's going to be way more expensive than I realized because I'm terrible at estimating how much a dress will cost. I have to do the research first before I can give an accurate estimation because my brain and numbers just do not work like that. And so I'm like, I have no idea. Like, maybe I can make it for under $1,000. Maybe I'm totally wrong and it'll cost $3,000. I don't know. And he's like, let's keep a reasonable budget, but this dress is like, you're more excited about this dress than any other element of the wedding. And I think we should honor that by maybe putting a bigger price tag on the dress and then cutting budget elsewhere in the wedding. And I was like, great, 100% agree. Thank you for saying that. We're all good. And so then last night, as I was falling asleep, I was like thinking about the budget, and I was like, well, if I do tulle, if it's mostly tulle, that's not going to be that expensive. Tulle's very cheap. If you get it in bulk, like, that's not that expensive. So I'm like, maybe it won't cost like $3,000. Like, maybe it'll be a little closer to the 1,000 mark. But then I'm like, what about all the appliques I want though? Because I want these beautiful floral embroidered elements like you see in the first dresses I tried on at David's Bridal, these beautiful florals. And so how do I do that? Like, how do I do that? And then, because I'm not hand embroidering it, there is not enough patience inside of me to do that. I have some patience. I have like a reasonable amount of patience for some things, but hand embroidering an entire wedding dress, not happening. No, thank you. So then I'm like, wait, do I need to get an embroidery machine? Like, I'm like, wait, Zach, could we take some of that budget that we were originally going to put towards buying really nice materials and maybe still buy nice materials, but not necessarily, we don't have to buy all that applique and all that things. I'll make my own with an embroidery machine, and we spend that money on an embroidery machine. And he's like, that's a great idea. Like, that is a genius idea, because an embroidery machine will last, you'll like get used. Like, it'll get used if I buy an embroidery machine. So then today I woke up and the first thing I did was start researching embroidery machines, which are crazy expensive. Like actual multiple needle embroidery machines are like minimum $4,000. Did not know that. Thought it was maybe like $1,000 or $2,000. No, it's more than that. So I'm like, okay, don't need a multiple needle embroidery machine. Start doing more research. Read more about embroidery machines. Turns out one needle embroidery machine is just fine. That'll serve me great. And so I've been doing some research, and I think I'm going to wait a little while to buy one, because A, the wedding isn't going to be till 2026, and B, I'm not engaged yet, and C, I want to really find a good deal. I don't just want to like buy the first one I see at full price. Like, I want to try and see if I can find maybe a refurbished one or a sale or some sort of thing. So I'm going to wait, hold out, keep my eyes open for a nice embroidery machine, keep those thoughts twirling around up there. So then after the embroidery machine, I finally start looking at materials. And I start looking at materials, and I fall down the silkworm rabbit hole. Because I'm like, I really want silk. Like, I really want this dress, aside from the tulle, like the trim and like the lining, I would love, maybe not the lining, but the trim and like the underskirt of the tulle, I would love to be silk. Because that's just so decadent, and it's a natural fiber, which I feel a lot more comfortable using than polyester. But then I discover silk is made by boiling silkworms alive. Don't love that. We love our animals and our creatures here. So I'm like, okay, is there maybe not necessarily vegan, but like cruelty-free ways to make silk? So I start doing my research. I find all the other alternatives and cruelty-free and like eco-friendly and vegan ways to make silk. And I'm like, okay, great, this is great. Like, silk alternatives. And so I found as a bamboo silk. And so I'm really hoping that looks as good as it feels as good as it looks, and like in person is as beautiful as it is online. So eventually I'll order a sample of that to test with, but I'm really hoping to use natural fibers as much as I can for this dress, and cruelty-free fibers. And so that's the silk debacle. And then I start getting into dyeing, like fabric dyeing. Because, spoiler alert, this dress is not going to be white. I'm not the kind of girl who's going to wear a white wedding dress on her wedding day. That's not me. We need some color in this dress. Maybe I'll wait and tell you what color it is. It's going to be. See if you can guess what color it's going to be. But it's going to be a very, very pale, very soft tone of this color. I'm going to dye the fabrics for it, because chances of me finding the color is very slim, and I love dyeing fabric. It's my favorite thing to do. I've dyed so much fabric for all my projects I've done. But then I start thinking, I'm like, I've heard of natural dyeing, and I know that natural dyeing will work on the natural fiber like bamboo silk. So maybe I should look into natural dyeing. So then I fall down the natural dyeing rabbit hole and explore all the different natural dye options. But then I'm like, what about the tulle? Because natural dye, I saw different results. Some people said it did work on nylon. Some people said it didn't. Some people said it only works on rayon, not nylon. But the tulle, where I get my tulle, it's polyester tulle. And I'm like, you can't naturally dye polyester. Like, I need to use red dye more for that. So I'm like, So this is something I still haven't fully decided. I'm like, do I fully commit to the natural dye and get a natural fiber tool, like a cotton tool? Or do I just kind of half do the natural dye with a silk, but then still have polyester tool? But that feels very inauthentic. It feels very inauthentic to me to have bamboo silk and polyester tool. That just, like, those don't go together in my opinion. But the catch is, cotton tool is like, it's 60 times the price. Yeah, so I get the polyester tool I get 50 cents a yard. The cotton tool I've been finding $20 to $30 a yard. I don't know if there's just I'm not looking in the right places, if there's a better place to buy cotton tool, but that's gonna skyrocket the price very quickly, especially because the tool is so cheap. It comes in 50-yard bolts. I'm like, maybe I'll just get 2 bolts. That's gonna be $50 for 100 yards of 108-inch wide tool. Like, that's gonna be massive amounts of tool, way more than I need probably, but like, I overcompensate a lot when I'm estimating, and so I'm like, let's say that's how much I need to spend. That's $50 on tool. That's only $50 on tool. And so I'm like, $50 on tool versus $50 for 2 yards of tool versus $50 for 100 yards of tool. Yeah, not loving the options here, love. So I need to look a lot more into that, decide what's worth it for me, if there's a way I can figure out a solution there. But that's going to be something I'm going to keep thinking about. But the final thing is, I've been looking at, so then I returned to embroidery and embroidery machines and looking at embroidery. And I did some research on embroidery on tulle and things like that. And then I kind of fell down the tambour beading rabbit hole. Tambour beading or tambour embroidery. Someone, I follow this designer fashion designer on Instagram, and she's really into tambour embroidery. It's so hard to say. Tambour embroidery right now. And I've been really intrigued watching her do that. And so I'm like, do I want to do some tambour beading on my dress? And the answer is kind of. I don't think I want to do it as extravagant as like this YouTuber I discovered today, Kat. I don't think I want to do it as extravagant as Kat does on their dress, but I would be interested in exploring that option more. Maybe to go along with the machine embroidery. See how I can incorporate those together. Maybe just doing beading, like lighter beading over the embroidery. Yeah, I'm curious. We're exploring our options. But all this to say, let's hope there's a ring on my finger soon. I have a promise ring right now, but not an engagement ring. Let's hope there's an engagement ring on my finger soon so I can feel slightly less crazy doing all this and have a little bit more of a go sign, a green light to actually get to work on all this. Keep in mind, while I've been doing all this research the past weekend, I have 16 Christmas gifts to sew. None of them have been finished. A few of them have been started, but nothing's been finished yet. I have 16 Christmas gifts to sew, and I have a Christmas market coming up this weekend that I have 7 pullovers to sew, and I don't even know, probably like 4 stockings to sew. So I have plenty of other projects I should be doing, but I'm not doing them because this is more exciting right now. Let's hope the excitement, the hyperfixation passes very soon, because we need to get to work on all that other stuff.
My parents did not raise a quitter, but they did raise a procrastinator. I've got a lot to do, and I'm not going to do it. Oh, shoot.
I really want to start Suzie Lynn Sews having a YouTube channel, like, fully. So we'll see how that goes, because it's kind of a whole other beast aside from TikTok. But we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching. You can check out my website or my Instagram or my TikTok at all these places. Yeah. Much love.